Hey, what's up guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist, and today I'm going to be doing a Phantom Knight deck profile. So this deck actually just got a major power boost in the form of the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardige. This card is absolutely insane. Getting you a Phantom Knight sent to the graveyard and a search off this card is just so good, and this card is probably going to get banned again in the near future, probably within a year or so, but this card is going to be awesome with the new support coming out in Phantom Rage. But I wanted to do an update before Phantom Rage and then one after Phantom Rage, and so this deck is totally tricked out, and I'm really excited to show you guys this. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down below because we have some awesome rewards for you guys, like getting your name description for every single video, getting a signed card sent in the mail, or even getting a requested deck profile just like this one every single month that you are a patron, along with test hands. So without further ado guys, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of the Phantom Knights of Ancient Cloak. So Ancient Cloak is a really interesting yet weird card because it has the ability that you can banish it from the graveyard to add a Phantom Knight, the Phantom Knight card from your deck to your hand. So there's certain cards that this card can't actually search, which is like the copies of Fogblade and copy of Sword, which is kind of weird. It just can't search like the traps, which is kind of weird because those are the best ones. But it also has the ability that if this card is in attack position, you can target one dark monster, change this card to defense, and then increase that dark monster's attack by 500 or by 800 points, which is pretty good. We then play 3 copies of the Phantom Knights of Silent Booties. Booties is really good in this deck too because it lets you special summon it to your side of the field if you control another Phantom Knight monster, except another copy of Silent Boots. And then once per turn, you can banish it from your graveyard, and then you get to add a spell or trap card from your deck to your hand that is a Phantom Knight spell or trap. We then play 2 copies of the Phantom Knights of Ragged Gloves. Ragged Gloves is really good in the deck too because Ragged Gloves lets you banish it from the graveyard to send a Phantom Knight card from your deck to your hand, and it also has a really nifty effect that if you use this card as an XYZ material for a dark monster, you can increase that dark monster's attack by 1,000, which is going to be your copy of Breaksword going up to 3,000 attack points, which is pretty good. We then play 3 copies of Kagamusha Knight. Kagamusha Knight is really good because if you normal summon a level 3 monster, which everything in the deck is level 3, just about, you can instantly get out a awesome play of special summoning this from your hand, which is super nice to be able to get that additional monster on your side of the field. We then play 3 copies of the Predaplant Orthoscorpio, which is my surprise tech of the deck. This card's really good, along with our copy of Darling Cobra. This card's really neat because the combo with the Orthoscorpio and the Darling Cobra is super cool because you actually have 3 targets in the deck in the form of Red Eyes Fusion, Instant Fusion, and Magical Eyes Fusion that you can search in the deck. So you have 3 targets that you can search off your Darling Cobra, which is really, really good to go into your double Dragoons because this deck can actually pull off 2 copies of Dragoons along with the Bardige, and backing it up with 3 copies of Fogblade is just absolutely insane, and your opponent is probably not going to have a way out of it, which is going to be really, really cool to be able to just stop your opponent from all those different plays. But they're also level 3 monsters, which is super helpful to be able to go into XYZ plays. They're dark monsters, which helps you out with a lot of other plays, and being able to link summon into Anaconda or Cherubini is also really nice to be able to send cards from deck to grave, or even get your other copy or your first copy of Dragoons out with your Anaconda. We then play 2 copies of Psychic Wielder because I do play some Synchro monsters in this deck as well, which is super neat to be able to special summon this card to your side of the field if you control a level 3 monster, and it's a good extender as well, and it has a really neat effect that if you use this card as a Synchro material, that the Synchro monster can destroy a card on your opponent's side of the field that has less attack than it, which is super nice. We play a single copy of Psychic Tracker, which is not a tuner monster, but it also has a really cool effect if it's using material for a Synchro summon. That Synchro monster gains 600 attack points, which is really nice, and it also has the ability that if you control a level 3 monster, you can special summon this card from your hand, which is really helpful. We play 3 copies of Tour Guide of the Underworld. Tour Guide of the Underworld is really nice in the deck because when you normal summon it, you get to special summon a level 3 Fiend monster from your deck, which can be another Tour Guide, or it can be our copy of Sangan. Sangan is a really neat card in the deck. I like it as a one-of because if it's sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add a monster with 1,500 or less attack from your deck to your hand, which is usually going to be your copy of your Orthoscorpio if you don't already have Orthoscorpio, but you can't use its effect for the rest of the turn, which is totally fine because if you use the a copy of Tour Guide and Sangan, you can link them away to summon your Anaconda, and then Anaconda wants buns, so you send your Red Eyes Fusion, Dark Magician, and Red Eyes to the graveyard, summon your Dragoons, and then you already have a negation on field and 2 pops, and then you also have a backup plan with the Predaplant or the Scorpio on your side in your hand that you can normal summon next turn with your Darling Cobra, which will get you a Search of Magical Eyes Fusion, and then you can go for your second Dragoon. So it's a really easy combo. You essentially start it off with 2 monsters, and then you just search off the Sangan, which is kind of cool. We then play a copy of Red Eyes Black Dragon and a copy of Dark Magician just to go into our copy of the Red Eyes Dark Dragoon. You can use it on the field, you can use it in the graveyard with Magical Eyes Fusion, but these cards get you a lot of value. Yes, they are garnets, but they're totally fine to be able to get plenty of cards out of the deck. And they're never really dead, because if you have them in the hand, you can use them with the Red Eyes Fusion, which is totally fine. The Magical Eyes Fusion can't be used in the hand, but the Red Eyes Fusion can. So if you draw one of them and you Anaconda, you can still send it from hand to graveyard, which is fine. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is really good because it can stop your opponent from doing a lot of different shenanigans against you, like hitting you with like a Stratos or getting a search off of a copy of Skarm, stuff like that. This card's really good to be able to just stop a bunch of different cards. So that's it for the monsters, guys. I know that is a lot of monsters, but hey, it's a monster mash deck. You're playing a lot of monsters anyways. We then play a single copy of Call by the Grave because we can only play a single copy of Call by the Grave, unfortunately, but it's still a really good card that you want to play as a one-of. We play a single copy of Reinforcements of the Army because you play a lot of warriors in this deck. So the Rhoda is really nice to be able to search a lot of cards in the deck, like any of your Phantom Knight monsters. 1 copy of Foolish Burial can send different cards that you need to the graveyard, like your copies of your Phantom Knight monsters. It can send those to the graveyard. It can send all sorts of different stuff to the graveyard to be able to help you get your plays rolling. We play a single copy of Instant Fusion, which actually is searchable, like I mentioned earlier, off your copy of Ortha Scorpio, which can get you a copy of your Millenniumize Restrict, which can bait hand traps as well. This card's really good. Since you can't play 3 Call by the Grave anymore, I play this package where I play 1 and 1 because it's super helpful to be able to use this card, and also it helps you go into Bardige because if you only open, like, it's not usually going to happen, but if you open up like a copy of your Ancient Cloak and a Boots, and then you open a bunch of spells and traps like an Instant Fusion and stuff like that, you're still fine because you can use the Instant Fusion to special summon Millenniumize and then use the normal summon out your Ancient Cloak and your copy of the Silent Boots, link them away, and link all 3 away and summon your copy of Bardige, or link into Cherubini, send something from deck to grave, and if your opponent tries to ash you off the copy of Cherubini, then you can bait out the hand trap with the Millenniumize, take it and put it as an equip spell, or an equip card to the Millenniumize, and then link all 3 of them away to summon out your copy of Bardige, which will get you 2 more searches, essentially, because you're going to send 1 to grave, banish it, get a search, and you're going to get the search off of Bardige for sending the card to grave, which is really cool. We then play a single copy of Red Eyes Fusion. Red Eyes Fusion is really good in the deck to summon out your copies of Dragoons, to be able to just get that monster out on the field. It is so good, and you need it as a one-of in this deck. At least a one-of or a two-of. I play it as a two-of in this deck because I play a single copy of Magical Eyes Fusion, because it's really easy to drop Magical Eyes Fusion after you've used Red Eyes Fusion on the next turn to be able to get an additional Dragoons out on your field, which is ridiculous, I have to say. We play 2 copies of the Phantom Knights Rank Up Magic Launch. Rank Up Magic Launch is ridiculously good in this deck. It lets you go into Requiem Dragon, which is super nice, with your copy of Dark Rebellion. After your copy of Breaksword gets popped by its own effect, you special summon out 2 Phantom Knights from the graveyard, and then you overlay both of them, summon your Dark Rebellion, detach both the materials, and then use your copy of Rank Up Magic Launch to summon Requiem Dragon, and then you go off from there, which gets you a lot of different advantage to be able to get that big boy out on the field. So, that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So for the traps, I'm playing a single copy of Shade Brigandine. Shade Brigandine I usually just use as a link material because it helps out getting searched from the deck really easily with like Boots, or it even is searchable because it says The Phantom Knights on it by Cloak, which is really nice to search it because you can set it and then immediately activate if you don't have a trap in your graveyard. Which is really good. I like that ability to just immediately search this and get another card if I open up Boots, and I keep on saying Boots and Pants, but I'm not. But if you search out a copy of if you have a copy of like Cloak and Boots, you can link them away, summon Cherubini, search this, and then summon this off the effect of like Cloak, and then go for your copy of Bardige, which is super cool. We play a single copy of Sword. Sword boosts a monster up by 800, but you can also banish it from the graveyard to special summon a Phantom Knight from the grave. And then 3 copies of Fogblade. Fogblade lets you basically Fiendish Chain an opponent's monster. If you guys aren't familiar with what that card does, it lets you target an opponent's monster, and then for the rest of the, while this card's face up on the field, that monster's effect is negated, and it can't be attacked, and it can't attack either, which is pretty cool. And also if this card, if that monster is sent to the graveyard, then you also send Fogblade to the graveyard, and you send that monster to the graveyard, which is kind of cool. And then you can banish this card from the grave and special summon a Phantom Knight, which is kind of neat too, because it gets you additional plays. So that's it for the traps and the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're playing a single copy of Rusty Bardige. Rusty Bardige, I've explained probably 4 times in this video, but it's so good. This card is really good, because during your main phase, you can send a Phantom Knight card from your deck to the graveyard, and then you can set a Phantom Knight spell or trap from your deck to your hand, or from your deck to your spell and trap card zone, which is usually Fogblade. And it also has the ability that when this card is on the field, if you have a Dark XYZ monster in the zone that this card points to, then you can if you XYZ summon to a zone in the zone this card points to, then you can target a card on the field and destroy it, which is really good to get you an additional pop on your side of the field. And if you summon out your copy of Breaksword, you're usually going to get 2 pops off of it, because you're going to get the Breaksword pop, and you're going to get this as well. We play a single copy of Anaconda. Anaconda is really good because it helps us get into Dragoons. Cherubini, usually what I use to climb into the copy of my Bardige, because you can use this as a material. And you can also send a level 3 from the deck to the graveyard, which is really good. You use this, send something to grave, and then special summon another monster to go into your copy of your Bardige, which is really easy to do. And then for the last Link monster, I just play a single copy of Linkuriboh for the copy of the Millennium Eyes. We play 2 copies of Red Eyes Dark Dragoon because of the ease of going into this card. You can just use Anacondas and Red Eyes Fusion and Red Eyes and Dark Magician to the graveyard, and then use Magical Eyes Fusion to go into the second one on the next turn, because after this card resolves, you can't do anything else, pretty much, which is really easy to do. You usually want to go first in Phantom Knights, so you can establish your back row and establish your board. Single copy of Millennium Eyes. Millennium Eyes is ridiculous at baiting out hand traps, and I love this card now. This card is probably what I'm going to start playing in place of the 3rd Called by the Grave, or the 2nd Called by the Grave that we're missing, until it goes back to 2. Then I'll just play an Instant Fusion and 2 Called by the Graves, and they'll be totally fine. We'll be back to where we were. 1 copy of Dark Requiem Dragon. Dark Requiem is what you use, what you summon on top of your copy of Dark Rebellion, but this card's super good. You can once return detach a material from this card, but it has to have Dark Rebellion as a material to gain both the effects. You can detach a material from this card, then target a monster your opponent controls and change its attack to 0, and if you do, this card gains attack equal to the original attack of the monster. So if you attack a monster, if you target a monster that has 4,000 attack, this goes up by 4,000 to 7,000, and then you can just swing over it and OTK your opponent. It also has the ability that during either player's turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can detach material, an XYZ material from this card, and then negate the activation. And if you do destroy that, and then special summon an XYZ monster from your graveyard, which is pretty good to be able to special summon back your Dark Rebellion. If you don't know what Dark Rebellion does, you detach the materials, target a monster on the field, and half its attack, and then this card gains the half that it lost. Living the Sea Dragon to bring back your banished cards. Dante to mill cards off the deck. 2 copies of Breaksword because it gets you 2 pops, or it gets you a pop on your side of the field and a pop on your opponent's side of the field, which is pretty good. And then if it gets popped, then you get to special summon 2 Phantom Knights from your graveyard and increase their level to 4, essentially, which is pretty good. I love that effect. 1 copy of Trishula. Trishula is one of the 2 cards that I play that are synchros. Trishula is really good because you use your copy of Wielder, but there's 2 cards in the deck that you can't use as a material, which is Kagamusha Knight and Tour Guide, which is really important to keep in mind when you're synchro summoning. You don't want to use those monsters as synchro material, and that's something you really need to keep in mind when you're using Trishula. And a single copy of Brionic. Brionic is neat in the deck too because you can use any 2 level 3 monsters or a Wielder and any other monster, and if they have a monster that's less than 2,300 attack when you use Wielder, you get to pop a card on their side of the field that's less than 2,300, which is pretty good. And also, you can send cards from your hand to the graveyard, which can net you advantage as well by banishing those monsters, like your copy of your Cloak, your Soar, or your Cloak, your swords, your fog blade, your anything that you feel like you can banish to gain searches is really good, or special summons is really good to combo with your Brionic, because you're getting bounces off your opponent's side of the field, which is losing them card advantage, and you're gaining card advantage because you're banishing to search, which is really good to get the cards you really want. So that's it for the deck, guys. This deck is absolutely insane. Really is. Like, I really went all out and teched this deck out, because you can summon 2 Dragoons, Bardige, Trishula, there's so many different plays in this deck, and there's so many different ways that you can change the main deck, or change the extra deck as well, to play like Access Code. The reason I didn't play Access Code in this deck is because all my Link monsters were dark, and I was like, this card's gonna be so dead, it's not even gonna be funny. So, plus you can't use this as Link material, which is the only downside of this card. So, anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely tell me what you think of this deck down in the comments down below, because it's really exciting. I love Phantom Knights. It was my favorite out of all the U-Boys, all their decks, like between Odd Eyes, this, Predaplans, and Speedroids. Like, this was hands down my favorite, because I just love the blues of the deck, and it's just so cool. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.